The following is a presentation of the Nerd Complex Podcast Network.
We would like to welcome you to Audio Suplex Live, brought to you by the Nerd Complex Podcast Network. Bollocks.
You say bollocks?
Bollocks.
Have you ever noticed that every episode opens with me laughing about something just unrelated? Yeah, just
Corey's hilarious.
Someone pulled out their wiener. We won't say who.
I always like to think that like people like either watching or listening are coming in the middle of a conversation that we're having. So
Yeah.
what are you pointing up for?
He pointed at you, and then I pointed at you.
Oh, you're pointing. Oh, at me.
Yeah.
I did not pull my wiener out.
Someone
guys.
pulled out there.
A conversation that comprised entirely of us making mouth noises.
Oh my god. Yeah.
You hungry?
This is the content you guys come here for. This is Audio Suplex Live in a nutshell. You guys come here for you wanted the best. You got the best.
I would listen to an hour of that.
Yeah. Luckily, we've been known to go over an hour sometimes, but we'll see. We'll see how tonight's episode goes. We have a good episode tonight.
We do. What's so special about tonight? Tell us a little intro of our show today.
Well, let's actually start out with the meat and potatoes going on here. We are welcoming back a good friend of the show, Matt Goodfriend. How are you doing, buddy?
That was terrible, and I hate you.
Welcome back, man. We're glad to have you back.
I'm
Very
glad to be
professional
here.
of you to be here.
Yeah,
Oh.
the professional.
I get it.
Yeah. So joining us tonight for the episode, Matt's joining us again for the episode. Glad to have him here. Stumble over my words. Trying to get to the point here. We're going to go over a couple little bits of news from this week. We've got a lot to cover with New Japan Pro Wrestling, some injury news from WWE, and then the whole rest of the episode is going to be dedicated to a special guest. Joining us on the show tonight will be the Iron Manager, JT Davidson, famous from AAW, Rockstar Pro Wrestling, CZW.
He's done just about everything.
He's worked at pretty much every indie of note, and even some, I'm sure, not of note. So
Yeah.
yeah.
We'll get to that with him.
Yeah, but that'll be coming up a little bit later on the episode. So, yeah, I guess why labor a point, and let's just get down to the meat and potatoes here. Hey, Joe, you ready to do some news?
It's the news. It's the news.
Before we get properly into the news, I actually want to make an apology real quick, and I want to draw a little bit of attention to our producer, Joe. I always try to remember in my neurotic way.
Your brain?
Yeah, cause you guys have seen me firsthand before we go live for an episode. Like, I'm all over the damn place. Like, I can't keep my thoughts together. I'm trying to do 8,000 different things at once. And I never take enough time to sit back and say, like, Joe is our producer. He's fantastic. He is the reason we're doing what we're doing. So can we just give it up for Joe real quick?
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Joe, you are...
He does above and beyond. We jokingly say how cool something would be to have, and he builds it for us. We have it available. He's like, yeah, give me a day.
You can always tell when, like, if you, like, casually mention, like, hey, Joe, we should do this. And he's, like, sitting there working on it or whatever, you know. So, to Joe, we celebrate. All right. That's enough celebration. So, let's dive right into the news for the week, guys. We'll start off with a couple pieces of New Japan Pro Wrestling news. First little bit this week, Dave Meltzer's ratings from 611's New Japan Pro Wrestling Dominion show are out, and they are a doozy.
What's the point in a 5-star scale? What's the point?
Maybe it's a 10-star scale.
And in which
He
case...
just hasn't told it. They haven't unlocked it
Well,
yet.
No one's been above a 5.
It's like the PlayStation 4's cores. Like, they just keep unlocking them over time. You can use it finally.
Meltzer, who said earlier in the week that Okada Omega 2 from the event had surpassed their original 6-star meeting from this year's Wrestle Kingdom 11, heaped another layer of praise on the two New Japan stars by awarding their match from Dominion a staggering 6.25 stars, a quarter star better than their previous encounter at Wrestle Kingdom 11. So a couple other notable ratings from the incredibly sad card. I don't know if you guys watched the entire show. I watched most of it.
I just watched the main event.
Kushida and Takahashi for the Junior Heavyweight Championship netted a 4.75 rating, which is a hell of a match. Fantastic match. I definitely recommend going back and watching that. And Naito versus Tanahashi for the Intercontinental Championship
What's left of it?
What's left of the poor Intercontinental Championship netted a 4.5 rating.
Did they crown a new champion in that match?
I didn't want to give away any of the spoilers.
Oh, okay.
That's why I was vague about the outcomes of those matches.
Oh, okay.
But the entire card is worth watching. It's a long
I'll have to
show.
Watch for myself.
It's about a 4.5 hour long show, but it's definitely worth watching. At least if you're gonna watch,
right?
Definitely do these three, and then I would also say the Never Openweight Championship, which is a phenomenal match as well.
Which adds up to 4 hours and 15 minutes of the 4.5 hour show. Perfect.
I don't know, the main event, I didn't realize how long it was when I started watching it. I'm sitting there, I'm like, I'll watch it real quick, I'll just watch this one match. And I found it somewhere on the internet. So I'm watching the first video, and that ends. I'm like, oh, it's on another.
You found it on New Japan
clip.
World, which is their streaming service.
Right.
For 9.99 yen per month.
Yen. Yeah. But yeah, it was super long.
Very long match.
And it's quality from beginning to end. Like, it doesn't drag on.
No, it doesn't. And which is, Meltzer said this a few times about the entirety of the card. It's amazing that the fans were as invested in the main event because there was no intermission on the show. It was like 4.5 hours of just straight go. And the match before this was the 4.5 star classic between Naito and Tanahashi. So, like, for all intents and purposes, this crowd should have been just, dead. But they were into
doing
it.
Something right there in Japan. Maybe they could bring that.
Okada's pretty good at wrestling, man.
They just sprinkled cocaine over the audience the entire show. Kept them going.
They're getting more and more intense.
So I don't know much about New Japan Pro Wrestling outside of like the last year or so. Is Osaka kind of like their like Chicago? How like WWE Chicago?
Matt, haven't you been to Osaka?
No.
Oh,
never.
You're the professional. Anyway,
no, I would really like to go to. Would you say Osaka?
Osaka would be really nice.
I really like Japan and the culture.
Yeah.
I'd like to visit there.
Maybe one day. Maybe we'll go.
We can go to Tokyo and Japan.
We could spend my birthday going to Wrestle Kingdom 12.
Perfect. Audio we can bring Suplex live on the go.
On the go.
We could pack up Asuka up and bring her with us. Take her back home. Free ride.
Unbelievable. All right. Another little bit of New Japan Pro Wrestling news. The majority of the card has been announced for the 2 G1 specials that are taking place in Long Beach, California on 7-1 and 7-2. Night 1, a couple of highlights here. I'm not going to name off all the matches, but you will have the Young Bucks on there. Marty Scurll will be on the card. Most of Chaos and the Bullet Club will be there. LIJ will also be there. We've got the first 4 matches of the IWGP US Heavyweight Championship tournament that they're doing. It's going to include Hangman Page, Jay Lethal, Juice Robinson, Zack Sabre Jr., Naito, Ishii, Kenny Omega, and Michael Elgin for the 8 competitors for the US title. Okada will defend the IWGP Heavyweight Championship against Cody on the first night of the
American Nightmare.
Yep. The Guerrillas of Destiny will defend the tag titles against War Machine. Night 2 will see the junior heavyweight tag titles defended by the Young Bucks against Roppongi Vice. And Tanahashi will be defending his Intercontinental Championship. I just spoiled all the matches from Dominion, by the way, against the one Billy Gunn. And then Night 2 will also see the semis and the finals.
So Billy Gunn's going to lose.
What's the dates for these again?
That'd be July 1st and July 2nd.
So it's coming up. So I probably won't be able to go.
I'm a little curious that they're not, because this is New Japan's first time producing their own show. Like, because they've been on like ROH shows in the US and stuff like that before, but this is New Japan's first time putting on their own show on US soil ever. I'm a little surprised. I mean, I guess that they're putting somebody like Cody on there just because he's a recognizable name too. But I think anybody who's going to a New Japan show in America would probably know who Okada is, would probably know who Naito is.
If you're going to a New Japan show, you know that roster.
Yeah, so why
it's
aren't
not like, no, I think New Japan? Yeah, I think I'll buy some tickets.
Right,
no,
right.
What happened to old Japan is what I want to know.
It's gone. Long gone.
Would you stop?
Regime change.
So, yeah, so pretty cool. It's a foregone conclusion for a lot of people that Okada is going to retain the title against Cody in the main event of the first night.
Spoiler.
Would it be out of the realm of possibility for him to win the title before Kenny Omega?
No, it's not out of the possibility.
Improbable?
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Cody's sloppy.
So, we'll see.
It'd have to be some kind of dream for him to win.
Yeah.
Even an American dream.
He had a list of so when he left WWE, he had a list of all the things he wanted to do.
Yeah.
Is win the New Japan Heavyweight Championship.
I don't think that's on there. But...
IGWCKP.
He had a list of people.
Just people he wanted to wrestle?
There were specific things on there, too. Well, I've got the list right in front of me here.
The Cody list?
Adam Cole, Dalton Castle, Battle of Los Angeles. So he had like people and like specific things.
Events. Okay.
He had Kurt Angle on there, Chris Hero, The Miracle, Moose. Let's see.
I wonder how many of those he's crossed off. He's fought Angle a couple times.
Young Bucks, the Streamers thing. He wanted to do the Streamers thing. Trevor Lee, Shibata, personal ring announcer Roddy Strong, which is probably not going to happen now, but you know,
it might.
But anyway,
Cody will be back.
You think so?
Once he's a big enough star.
Yeah.
WWE will take advantage of that.
Well, speaking of WWE, we've got a slew of WWE superstars cleared to return to in-ring action. As reported by ProWrestlingSheet.com, Rusev, Dash Wilder,
Wait, hold on. Handsome Rusev.
Sorry, let me restart that. Handsome Rusev, Dash Wilder, and Woo Zack Ryder are all cleared to return to in-ring action.
You know it.
Zack Ryder actually appeared on SmackDown this past week. You're going to start an angle, I guess, with him and the Hype Bros and Mojo Rawley getting back together. It's probably not going to end well for Mojo. Yeah. So
It's
and
not
then
gonna end
obviously
well. He's going to win the IC belt.
yeah,
This year.
we'll see. I said it, even though it's on the wrong brand now. If you know anything about Audio Suplex Live, it's that you know we are all about our reckless speculation. That's our bread and butter. Just reckless speculation and nefarious means.
I think that's the best. You're the only one that says nefarious.
means.
I've never said nefarious means in my life, other than when I'm making fun of you saying nefarious means.
You're a jerk. Last little bit of news, not really news, but more of like an anecdotal thing. Brock Lesnar and Samoa Joe's segment from Raw this past week, the YouTube video of it, is currently sitting at over 5 million views. For a little bit of context, the next closest segment from this past Monday's episode of Raw was a tag team match involving Heath Slater, Rhino, The Miz, and a man in a bear costume, and that currently sits at 1.2 million views. It's a bit of an interesting anecdote because a lot of people are indicating that this might be a sign that casual fans and the U.S. fans especially are super invested in Samoa Joe as a main event talent because like people are wanting to see what's going on with this angle. Now, obviously, it could be because it's Brock Lesnar and we haven't seen him since Wrestling Mania, but you know,
I'm sure Brock has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, that's a lot of it. That promo Samoa Joe cut on Heyman
2 weeks ago was fantastic.
Brutal.
A lot to do with it. I'm sure that's getting circulated a lot as well.
They did a really good job with that, making like turning off the mic and just let it be like the camera mic. It was so good. So
Pets his head like I'm gonna take you down.
So that's all we really got for news this week. We're gonna take a brief pause here to plug another one of our shows here on the Nerd Complex Podcast Network, and when we come back, the Iron Manager, JT Davidson.
The
Iron Manager. Joe, take us away.
Hey guys, this is Josh.
This is Sean.
Please check out our show.
Erectile dysfunction on a nerd complex.
Yeah, I mean,
Or whatever.
if you don't, I just don't even care if you don't.
My puppy will die.
This dog's already dead.
Hello. Welcome to the show.
I appreciate it.
Yes.
I apologize if you came in on the back end of our commercial plugging another one of our fine shows here on the Nerd Complex Podcast Network. That was Erectile Dysfunction. Make sure you guys check them out. So without any further ado, let's introduce our guest. We have with us today the Iron Manager, Mr. JT Davidson. Mr. Iron Manager, sir, how are you?
I'm doing really well. How are you guys?
Fantastic. We're pleased to have you on. Do we have video here, Joe? Are we working on it? So
We're working on it.
We're working on getting the kinks out. That's one of the many fun side effects of being a live show is that we have kinks that come up on a pretty frequent basis. But yeah, we are super glad to have you joining us today. We wanted to kind of get you in here and talk about a number of different things. We want to talk about your beginnings in pro wrestling, your transition to a manager, us being based out of Ohio. Obviously, we want to talk about Ohio wrestling and how crazy it is right now. But let's
Absolutely.
so let's start at the beginning. So how did you first get involved in pro wrestling?
Well, I came from the generation, I think like a lot of guys my age where, it's, late night TV, best of backyard wrestling was, something you saw after, Raw and Nitro. And, pretty much that was, at the time, that was kind of what you did. It was just, okay, we're going to be backyard wrestlers. It worked for M-Dog 20 and Josh Prohibition, so why not us? But, we started, doing that, at probably my freshman year of high school, all the way through. But, realistically, once we graduated high school, we just wanted to get in. So there was, a company in the area called ACW. And I grew up in a little rural town in Ohio called Lynchburg. And it was one of those places where it's not close to anything. So we had to get in with, probably the one of the smallest companies in the area. And again, at the time, HWA, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but HWA was a company in Cincinnati that at the time, probably in the early 2000s, was actually a WWE developmental territory.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, it was. Them and after they lost the contract at one point, and then it went down to OVW, which I think a lot of people are more familiar with, down in Louisville. But, there were they did a lot of local shows, and, that was really my first taste of good, solid, indie wrestling. And that's actually where the Irish Airborne OI4K came from. They were products of the HWA school. Sammy Callahan came from the same place. John Moxley, a.k.a. Dean Ambrose, came from the same school.
Nice.
So again, they're all coming from that same area, of Cincinnati. So basically, I wanted to train there, but at the time, since it was a developmental territory, it was like $3,000. To get in there and train. And I'm 18 years old, right out of high school. I didn't have that kind of money at all.
Not a lot of 18-year-olds do.
No, it was just, and I lived so far away. So, I followed around this, smaller local company for about a year, myself and my friend Joe. And pretty much it was just us begging to help them put up the ring, tear down the ring, do whatever we could to, help, just help them out and, just hope that they could set us up with a trainer. And, after about a year of doing that, they finally, gave us a guy's name. That guy eventually, ran his own show. And on that very first show, Dave and Jake Chris were actually booked, on that show. Dave took a liking to me and pretty much, pretty much he was just like, hey, look, this isn't, the best place you could be. Why don't you come up to Dayton, train with us? And, really, that was 2006, I think. So in one way, shape or form, ever since I've been pretty much associated with the Chris brothers. So that's kind of how I got in.
That seems to be a common thing is Dave latching onto people, or not latching onto people, but saying
kind of like finding the talent.
I see something in you. Let's do this.
Well, that actually happened with a guy out of our hometown here in Toledo with Trey Miguel. Kind of got associated with the Chris and kind of just moved his packaged himself up and went down to Rockstar as well down in Dayton. So.
Yep. Yeah. It's fun. I stood and talked with Trey for probably 10, 15 minutes outside of Rockstar last night before I left. But I mean, talk about somebody who's just been catapulted, to the next level. Oh, yeah. Trey's doing a hell of a job right now.
Very talented.
Yeah.
Too.
Having seen him work matches here in, cause we're based out of Toledo. So having seen him work matches here in Toledo and then being able to see him at the level that he's at now is just absolutely insane to us. And it's, much love to Trey Miguel. So, sorry, I was leaving a little bit of room there. So you had mentioned OI4K, and that kind of ties into another thing we wanted to kind of talk to you about was, kind of like the early beginnings of what OI4K really is, what it started as, and what it kind of is now. Because it's obviously it's like a stable, but at the same time, it almost feels like more of like a collective from time to time, depending on who's kind of like involved with it at any given time.
Yeah, well, we're trying to right now really establish that the current group is the core group, which is Sammy Callahan, Dave and Jake Christ, and myself. That's the four guys who are OI4K. We're traveling the roads as OI4K. Dave, I think like a lot of groups in the past did, Dave kind of saw it as a thing where, well, OI4K had a name, so he's bringing in these guys like Zachary Wentz, Desmond Xavier, Trey Miguel, who are, ultra talented guys. But what he's trying to do is give them the OI4K rub, so that it gets them exposure, and not that was a bad thing, but we've just decided that, going forward, that's kind of not what the group is about. We're going to help people. We're going to make sure that, we try to put light on people, or, shine light on people. But, our group is now getting enough of a buzz momentum that we want to kind of make sure it's the core members that are a part of the group.
Right. And going back probably about a month or so ago, when you guys went out to PWG, that was kind of the way it was booked, was Sammy, Dave and Jake, and then yourself. So awesome.
Right.
Yeah. So going back into Ohio wrestling, then how do you think like Ohio wrestling has kind of progressed from when you started and then at the early onset of like Rockstar Pro and OI4K to kind of where it's at now? Because there's obviously like at the highest level WWE, you have a lot of guys on the roster and girls on the roster who are from Ohio, both in Ambrose, as you had mentioned earlier, Dolph Ziggler, The Miz, Alexa Bliss are all from Ohio. But then you have, your Sami Callahans, your Dave and Jay Chris, and now you have as we had mentioned before, Desmond and Trey and Zachary Wentz, who are kind of like that next level of Ohio wrestling.
Right. Well, also you got to remember like Abyss. Abyss is from Cincinnati.
Oh,
yeah. He came out of NWF, which was kind of the rival promotion of HWA. Wildcat Chris Harris, guys like that. But they were all from Cincinnati. So for me, there was a big boom in Ohio wrestling in the late 90s, early 2000s, when you had that rivalry between NWF and HWA. There's actually a really cool documentary that NWF put out that kind of had a history of that. But so you had that kind of generation of guys that came out. Dave and Jake were a part of it, and Sammy. But I really believe that right now, I'm going to call a spade. I really believe that Rockstar Pro kind of, and the Chris brothers are really what kind of regenerated Ohio wrestling to what it is right now. And, Dave has to be credited with a huge part of that, because Dave's the trainer. Dave's the guy that spends the hours and hours, literally, 4 or 5 hours on Mondays and Tuesdays, with the trainees. And he has an eye for talent. And to the point where I've gotten on him in the past about being too generous with who he brings in and, giving people too many chances. But good grief. Dave, for the reputation that, is out there with Dave about him being kind of hard-nosed and, whatever it is, the dude has given so many people chances. And like I said, I really believe that as far as new talent that people are seeing just kind of exploding out of Ohio, you got to give Dave, and then Jake to another extent, because Jake books the show. Dave brings them in, trains them, and then Jake puts them in positions to be successful, which is exactly what Jake did for me. He brought me literally in off the street 3 years ago at Rockstar, said, "Hey, we're going to make you a manager." I was a wrestler at the time. We're going to make you a manager. We'll, kind of be like an enforcer type, character, kind of like Diesel was, but your strong suit is how well you speak. Started doing it, never had planned on it, but it worked. And that's just, a testament to his eye, for what people's strong suits are, and, being able to put them in the right position to be successful.
Yeah, that's funny, because my first exposure to you was up in Toledo at a NOW show, and ever since then, there are tons of managers that do what you do as that mouthpiece, and nobody does it like you do. It's that kind of Paul Heyman-esque thing, but you're on a whole nother level, because you don't see Paul Heyman going out there competing in death matches. So,
well, and I only do that once a year for Rockstar.
Right.
That's obviously not my regular gig, but well, and it's funny that you say that you see a lot of managers out there doing that. It's I guess you have to look at it as what is it? What's the imitation is the purest form of flattery.
Yeah.
Because I am seeing a lot of people now, and I never did before, that are kind of doing the introductions, and that they're doing kind of what I do. There's a guy in Indiana. I won't mention any names, but I was at the show. I had already been on, and then he goes on with his client, verbatim does my shtick. And
wow.
I just looked over at my guy. I think it was Dave or no, I think it was Aaron Williams. And I just looked at Aaron, and he looked at me because he caught it too. And I said, "Well, I think he's a better JT Davidson than I am." You know?
Now, how many different wrestlers are you a manager for? Is it just the three guys that are also in OI4K, or do you manage more than that?
Currently, as far as on stage, we'll call it, on screen, whatever you want to say. Yes, it's Sammy, Dave, Jake. Well, technically Trey Miguel too, because he's tagging with Jake at Rockstar. But Rockstar's its whole a whole nother animal.
Right.
But as far as behind the scenes, like I just put a T-shirt order in for Zachary Wentz. I do things for a lot of the guys, but my main focus is definitely the core OI4K group.
Nice. What does your travel schedule look like on an average month? Are you going all around the country, or are you mostly here in Ohio doing the Rockstar stuff, or what does your travel schedule look like on an average month?
Well, okay, so Rockstar is a minimum of 6 shows a month. We do every Wednesday for TV tapings, and then we have an iPay-per-view on the first Friday of the month. We have a weekly booking at IWA Mid-South. So there's another one. So I mean, right there, just between those two promotions, you're looking at 115 shows a year, roughly.
Oh, wow.
But I mean, I'm on the road almost 5 days a week, easy. Last year I did. I lost it as far as the count, but it was between 180 and 210 shows last year.
Holy cow.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a full-time schedule. It's I was just watching an old clip of Triple H on Tough Enough, where he was talking about your full-time schedule. It's 200 plus days a year, and I was like, oh, I do that. That's cool.
I'm on par with that.
But yeah, I mean, I can tell you in the last month. I've taken the last 3 weeks off. I've just been a little bit down with a health issue, but as far as the month before, I mean, Boston, New York, New Jersey, Iowa, Chicago. We were just in Florida. Been in, good grief. I mean, just everywhere. We're going to Knoxville this coming week.
Nice.
Be back. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of travel. So I mean, it's I'm definitely keeping busy.
Excellent. So I actually got to ask personally on a personal note, New Jersey, I'm assuming that's for CZW shows?
Mostly, yes. CZW is located in New Jersey.
As a side little anecdote, I used to actually skate as a child at the skating rink that they run their shows out of.
Yeah. The Flyers, yep.
Yep, always gives me a good little, it's in Voorhees, New Jersey. I actually grew up in that area, and it's always a nice little chuckle when I see that they're running shows out of the Flyer skate zone. So.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually wanted to bring this up because I noticed when I was kind of going through your Twitter that you've got a lot of interactions with, and I'm probably going to butcher his name up, Shigehiro Iri. He's the Japanese member of OI4K. How did it come to pass that OI4K has a Japanese member?
Okay, so Shigehiro is just the coolest guy ever. I mean, like he is. They call him the Japanese beast. I mean, because he's a big boy for. And I'm not saying Japanese people are small, but he's a big boy.
Yeah, I'm looking at his profile right now. He's a big dude.
Very thick. I mean, he hits like a freaking freight train. But he just fell in love. He was in the U.S. for probably 2 months straight, and he lived at Dave's house for most of that. And because Dave always opens his house up, to travelers. I mean, it's just one of the things that he does. He has a wrestling house. But again, Shigehiro, he came at Rockstar. We had a 6-man tag that he ended up teaming with the Chris, and Dave gave him a OI4K shirt, and he says, "Yeah, you're an honorary member." And man, Shigehiro ran with it. Like he's now calling himself the Space Panda. Yeah. he has a panda mask that he does just like Sammy does, with the cat.
Oh,
but he's
no.
the space panda. He made his own like Dave Christ-esque vest that has the skull on the back, and it has like the Dave type, it's a Dave vest basically. Made it himself, or maybe had it made, I don't know. But I mean, he just ran with it, and now he just talks up OI4K like nobody's business. He fell in love with it, and we didn't ask him to do any of it, but we made him an honorary member, and boy, he's just all about it. That's
super sick. I like actually seeing that you guys have like an international contingent now, so that's that's awesome. Yeah. So kind of going back to what Corey was asking you earlier about the guys that you're managing currently, is there anybody on your radar, like if you had to kind of like pick a dream scenario, either like on the indie scene currently, or even on a much larger scale with maybe somebody from like a New Japan or like a WWE, that you think would benefit from having the Iron Manager in their corner? Or
well, look, as far as a dream scenario, I think that's what I already have. I mean, I have some of the best talent in the world, with Sammy Callahan, Dave and Jay Christ, a lot of these guys. But, and I'll flip it on you. As far as just for like stretching myself and being interesting and doing something different, I posted this on Facebook not too long ago, and I said, I don't have time to do this right now, but I would love to just, get a random booking, at a promotion, and then just do what I did when I first came in, just build a stable around me of guys that are not over, that are green, that are whatever,
right?
Big guys who can't talk, and just let me help get them over. Let me be their mouthpiece, and just, do that kind of like the Bobby Heenan family, where it was just random people that it would throw in, and Bobby would benefit, them. That would be fun for me. But as far as as far as what I do on a week-to-week basis, I mean, I couldn't ask for a better, situation to be in, with the guys I have.
Yeah, we're pretty big OI4K marks up in Toledo, so we're right there with you. Well, so, you talk about having people that are green and wanting to partner up with them. Who do you see as the next big thing right now in all your different travels between IWA, CZW, Rockstar, out in PWG, AAW, yeah.
I mean, I've got to go with guys that I know. I mean, again, I'll talk about how great Trey Miguel, Zachary Wentz, Desmond. I mean, Desmond's already in, Impact, so I don't think he even counts anymore. But
he's up in the next level.
He's up in the next level. As far as I got to say, like Myron Reed. Is a guy that is just on fire right now. I think he's right at a year in the business, and the guy is it's crazy the type of bookings he's getting.
Yeah, you might say hot fire even.
Hot fire, Myron Reed. Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, like that kid can go. But here's my thing with guys like Trey, guys like Myron, Zachary. I love the fact that these guys can take like constructive criticism, that they can, anything that I'll tell them, anything that, Dave or Jake or any of the veterans in the locker room, will give them as far as constructive criticism, they just run with it, and with this generation, and I'm not talking about wrestling right now, especially, but with this generation of people, it's the everybody gets a trophy generation. Everybody feels entitled. These are some kids that will just take their lumps, that they will, take the constructive criticism, and they will use it to make themselves better. And that's why they're going, in the direction that they are right now.
Yeah, those are all incredibly talented guys that you named right there. And it is refreshing to see some younger talent out there who's actually kind of doing things to kind of paraphrase, like in kind of like an old school style, who are like they're like you said, like they're taking their lumps and they're not just kind of like taking anything for granted. So yeah, it's actually super refreshing to see that going on right now.
Absolutely. So
one thing that I actually wanted to bring up to you was in reference to something that you posted on Facebook not too long ago, in reference to, I'm assuming somebody said something, it looks like Instagram, about the Tournament of Death, and they had like some comments to make about it. What is, if you want to kind of paraphrase what happened with that, and then kind of give us your stance on, because obviously a lot of the matches when you do actually get back in the ring are hardcore style or deathmatch style wrestling. So what's your kind of stance on that currently, and what had happened with that situation?
Well, look, I might shock you a little bit with what I'm going to say about death matches in particular, but I was telling somebody the other day, the older I get, the more nervous I think I get with death matches, and I don't mean necessarily even for myself, but I mean to watch them, like especially if it's one of my friends. I'll get a little bit queasy because all I want is for my friends and anybody, acquaintances, a Matt Tremont, anybody along those lines who I love Matt, but we're not on a first name basis, but I want him to come back through the curtain as healthy as he left. And in death matches, that's just not going to happen.
Right.
There's no way. But with that being said, there is an audience out there for death matches. There's an audience out there for European style wrestling. There's an audience out there for lucha libre. There's an audience out there for high flying. It doesn't matter. There's an audience for it. And at Tournament of Death, a bunch of fans showed up, paid their hard-earned money, and they wanted to see deathmatch wrestling.
Right.
So my friend Alex Colon did a death-defying move, which was a Spanish fly off the scaffolding through a barbed wire table.
I actually saw that spot. It was insane.
It was insane, and Alex is insane. Okay, like Alex is ridiculous. My first death match as a manager was against Alex Colon, and
I'm so sorry.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, I have memory problems now because of that match. I'm not even he knocked me out in the first 5 minutes of the match. It was one of the bloodiest matches ever at Rockstar Pro on accident. But I love him, and he's a good dude. I'll tell you the worst thing that happened in that match, just to kind of sidetrack, is he swung a kendo stick, a Singapore cane, as hard as he could at me, and I puffed out my chest. I was going to take it right in the chest. Nope, hit me right in the Adam's apple.
Oh.
And I'm going to tell you something. If you've never been hit by a Singapore cane in the Adam's apple, you don't know pain. No, I thought I was going to die.
Oh,
it legit, because I remember hitting the mat and just gasping for air because I thought he collapsed my windpipe, and I just remember going, "Yep, this is how I'm going. This is how I'm going out. I'm done."
Holy cow!
But yeah, it was crazy. But anyway, Alex did the spot, the Spanish fly through the table, and look, there was a guy on Instagram, and I probably shouldn't have said anything, and it didn't get horribly bad. I also didn't post everything, but he basically just was very outspoken in 3 or 4 comments where he said that, well, that's not wrestling. He's a no talent piece of shit. He's this, he's that. And I said, man, you really need to just watch your mouth, because you have no idea, what these guys are putting themselves through.
Right.
And the guy just responded to me by saying, shut the F up, you Mark. He called me a Mark. And it just hit me the wrong way. And so I started instant messaging the guy, and I was just like, so I'm a Mark. Okay, so that's fine. You and your, I'm sure you and your 60 followers or whatever it was, you'll what's going on in wrestling more than I do, I'm sure. And he comes back at me and says, something like, oh no, I shouldn't have done it, but I listed all the companies that I've worked for, and he's just like, oh, well, I wasn't trying to say that the companies were shit. I was just trying to say that your style of wrestling is shit. And I'm like, you obviously have no freaking clue who you're talking to right now. Not trying to seem egotistical, but I was just like, if you're saying that all I do is death matches, then you have no idea. So, but anyway, I mean, he backpedaled really fast, and, he ended up actually saying, yeah, you're right, I'm sorry, which I couldn't believe.
Yeah, that's
happened, through an internet interaction. But
that never
no, it wasn't.
It never happens.
No, it never happens. I was like, hey, I actually won something on the internet.
Nice.
That might be the
holy
first.
Crap.
That might be the first troll to retract his statement in the history of the entire internet.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I think I should be in the Guinness Book of World Records right now. I really believe that.
Well, I mean,
I'm the first one.
Yeah. Not to demean a Singapore cane to the Adam's apple, but you kind of gave him the Singapore cane to the Adam's apple of like responses there. So
Internet response.
yeah, of internet responses. So he kind of got his comeuppance with that one a little bit. So all right, well, awesome. Corey, do you have any other questions you want to throw on here?
I like to ask any of our guests who their favorite wrestler was when they were growing up. So who was your favorite wrestler growing up?
Well, so as a kid, I came in kind of late. I didn't start watching until I was like 12 or 13. We just, as a household, we just didn't watch wrestling. But, you know, I was always really big into just like the bodybuilder type guys. So I loved Schwarzenegger and Stallone and, you know, and then Hogan kind of fell into that because he was on TV. He had, you know, some movies out there. Thunder in Paradise was on TV.
Classic.
You know, so yeah. So I ended up just, you know, I was flipping through the channels one night. And Nitro was on, and it was Hollywood Hogan versus Randy Savage for the world title. And I knew Hogan, so I kind of stopped and started watching it. And he won the title from Savage that night. I come running out of my room, and I'm like, Mom, Hulk Hogan just won the championship. And she goes, you watch wrestling? And I paused, and I was like, well, I guess I do now.
Nice.
So Hogan kind of got me into it. But I mean, if you, like some of my influences, like, I mean, Mick Foley is absolutely one of my top 3 or 4. And I'm privileged enough. I got to eat Mr. Sacco last year.
I saw that actually. I saw a clip of that on YouTube.
That's got to be a dream come true.
Well, if you don't mind me telling a quick story.
No, by all means.
So the match was Dave Christ and Aaron Williams versus Tommy Dreamer and Rhino. Okay. And Mick was doing guest commentary at the table. Now, I did not get a single spot called for me, and I was like, that's fine. You know, like Dreamer doesn't know me that well. He does now, but Dreamer didn't know me that well. Rhino didn't know me that well. You know, so it's like they're protecting themselves as veterans. They don't want to work with anybody that they don't necessarily know or trust, right? Well, so I was just out there, but I wanted to be involved so bad. So I was like, I'm going to be JT Davidson times 50 right now and just be as obnoxious as I possibly can. And hopefully, like when I came out and did my entrance, I actually got in Foley's face. And I was just like, I'm looking at the other commentator who's actually a Rockstar commentator. So he knows me really well. And he's just like, and I'm like, you better tell him who I am. You better tell. And I just like wink at him. And Foley's like, what's going on right now? He goes, he wants you to know that he's JTF and Davidson. Like that, right? So the match is going on. It gets to the finish, and like I'm sliding in to check on him. Dreamer rolls over and goes, "You're going to take the sock from Mick." And I kind of froze for a second, and I'm like, "What?" And then he just gets up and goes, "Get on me!" And so I start beating up Tommy Dreamer, you know, like just randomly. And so I roll to the outside and start getting in Mick's face, and sure enough, man, he pulls the sock out. You know, puts me in the mandible claw, and it was just awesome, and it happened on the fly.
Oh, that's awesome. How is the mandible claw, by the way?
Fine. I mean, it was just like it was such a snap thing that like I didn't have time to process any of it. What sucked though, and this is the thing that scared the crap out of me, is so I was my back was against the guardrail. Mm-hmm. He gives it to me, and I just lean gently on the guardrail. Whole guardrail collapses. Okay. Oh, wow. So I fall backwards. He falls on top of me, and he's a big man. Okay. Yeah. He's like 6'4" or something like that. But he falls on top of me. But I was so worried because he's been through it. He's been through all those battles, and his body is so wrecked. And I was just so worried that small fall like hurt his knee or something, right? Like, you know, because he had a hard time getting up. And I remember just pacing after that match. Like I was so nervous that I hurt Mick Foley, you know, like I was so scared. And I remember our promoter, Chad, drove him to the airport after the show. So when Chad gets back from the airport, I'm like, Chad, is he okay? What, you know, and he just goes, what are you talking about? You know, like that. I was like, well, he didn't get hurt or anything, did he? He goes, no, the entire time he was just talking about how much he liked the show. I was like, nice. Oh, thank God.
Yeah. And you're sitting here pacing the whole time thinking that you like, you know, injured one of your favorite wrestlers or whatever growing Absolutely. Up. So
I was mortified. Yeah. But as soon as I found out that he was okay, I was able to start, enjoying it. So it was
that's awesome.
it was a really cool experience.
Yeah, there's not a lot of people. I mean, that can truly say like, "Hey, I took a Mr. Sacco and took the mandible claw from."
Live to tell the tale.
Yeah, and live to tell.
Right.
So you probably didn't actually. I don't know if you heard me audibly pop, but as soon as you mentioned being a WCW fan growing up, I popped because that's part of the dynamic of our show. Is that Corey hates WCW, and I was a huge WCW fan growing up. So that's one for the good guys right there.
I would say I hate WCW. I just prefer.
I had to
WWF.
force him to watch Uncensored 1998.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah, he wasn't about it. So
No.
So, Travis and I were actually at Rockstar Pro 5 earlier this year.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah.
And were you present there? I don't recall. That was a
I was
weird night.
and that's the. No, I was definitely there. I'm going to tell you something. I don't even remember what I did.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm racking my brains. I can remember some of the matches because that was Dave Chris versus Ray Phoenix.
Yep.
That was also
Right.
the main event was Wentz versus Callahan for the belt.
right.
There obviously we can't mention that show without mentioning the bullies and that unfortunate spot that happened during the tag match.
Oh, yeah.
Which
Now I remember. Yeah, I was there. I managed straight that night, and what I mean by that is I didn't get involved. It didn't do any spots, anything like that. But yeah, I was definitely there. I managed was it the boards match with Sami Callihan and?
No, that was at spring break.
Oh, I'm embarrassed. I should really remember this stuff.
And that's the thing too is that
you mean you don't keep like a diary of like all of your wrestling matches and everything?
No,
Like,
I'm not David Starr.
he was on that show too. Actually,
Yeah,
he
that
took
was-
Desmond.
Yeah, that was the one Rockstar show that we've been to, and even I have a hard time remembering it just because that was such a weird night.
Yeah.
With all of the things going
Yeah.
on.
I do 5 shows a week, like I said. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's just starting to run together sometimes.
Yeah, that's gotta be difficult.
And here we are thinking our schedule with one show a week is arduous, but
Yeah.
Yeah. So the point that I was getting at is that was scary for us as fans, and I'm just curious if you have any moments that were scary for you as a manager, as a wrestler, aside from getting hit in the throat with a Singapore cane.
Yeah, I mean, it's as far as me wrestling in particular, or like with my guys, like either or.
Either or, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. Like the match I just had in December with Zachary Wentz. I mean, I got a little freaked out in that match, just because I bled so bad, and I remember I was getting lightheaded and things like that. It just got scary to the point where I was worried I was going to pass out. While giving him a move, or it's just scary that you're gonna injure somebody. I will tell you the scariest thing that I've seen with my guys though was actually with Desmond. Desmond, when he first came to Rockstar, he took a middle rope tombstone pile driver from Ron Mathis, and it was dead of summer, so they're both just dripping with sweat. And man, as soon as Ron jumped, Desmond slipped. And Desmond literally looked at the mat, and his head just turned. From the second rope, his head just turned backwards. And I didn't even wait for the 3 count. Dave and I just dove in the ring, because we thought he was messed up, but he apparently is made of rubber because he was just like, I'm fine, Wow. Like the next day, his neck got tight, like he got real, but it was such a scary moment. And he actually, when he watched it back on tape, he got freaked out, because he didn't realize it was that bad. But it was one of those moments where in the split second, I thought he just broke his neck. He just broke his neck. And that's scary because I in my career, I was in the ring one time when a guy broke his neck, and it is the scariest thing ever. When somebody that you were in there with, like I said, I want everybody to come back through the curtain just as healthy as they came back. And when somebody is very badly injured, just like, Mason was with the Hooligans, it's just your stomach just drops, and it's a bad feeling. So you just don't ever want to be involved in something like that.
Yeah, having been there that night for Rockstar 5, and when that spot actually happened, the whole Rockstar arena just kind of like shut down. Obviously, like it was definitely like, even from a fan's perspective, like Matt was saying a second ago, it's definitely a harrowing thing to kind of just like not only witness but be there for. So
Right.
Not wanting to end on a sour note, I want to ask you real quick the kind of like the flip side of that question. Recently, we had somebody in here from one of our local promotions up here in Toledo, and they were telling us about a spot where somebody brought a cheeseburger into the ring, and it was used in the match.
It was like hidden in the guy's pants.
Yeah, he was stuffing a cheeseburger in his pants, and go back and listen to it. It's interesting. But I wanted to ask you, what is one of the craziest like funny things that you've probably seen like in the ring or in a match? I'm assuming with Callahan around, you've probably seen something.
Well, I'll tell you. So there was a show that we did in Orlando just a few months ago during WrestleCon, and it was midnight after Mania. So it was the show, right? I mean, it was like started at like 1:45 in the morning.
Wow.
After Mania. But it was a sold out show, 300 people. That's how many tickets we sold, and it was a dual promotion between the Wrestling Revolver and Wrestle Circus, and. So I was involved in was it 8-man, 6-man or 8-man? I can't remember how many total. 8-man match. And so I'll give you the quick version, but it was a funny setup. David Starr comes up to me in the back before the show even starts, and he's just having trouble even talking. He's laughing so hard. And he goes, "We came up with the greatest spot in the history of wrestling. It's for you." And he goes, "Nobody else can do it but you. You've got to do it." And I'm like, okay. And basically, so it was John Morrison was on the opposing team, right? So John Morrison he just had that movie Boone the Bounty Hunter come out. So he's been wrestling as Boone. He's just kind of playing it. Yeah. Oh, he has. Yeah, wearing the whole bounty hunter outfit. So they thought it would be funny. Because that was the thing, it was just like let your hair down type wrestling that night because it was 1:45 in the morning. Well, by the time we went on, it was probably like 3, right? So he's like, well, what I want to do is in the middle of the match, I'm going to put Zachary Wentz in the corner, and I'm going to frisk him, and I'm going to reach into his trunks, and I'm going to pull out a bag of white powder, right? Okay. So he does, and as soon as he pulls out the white powder, the entire room, remember, this is Florida, okay? But the entire room goes, "Oh!" and Zach starts going, "That's not mine! That's not mine! Somebody planted it," right? So Zach jumps out of the ring to get away from him. Freaking Morrison, man, who is a ninja, just dives over the top rope, does a flip, lands flat-footed right beside Zachary Wentz, and Zach goes and runs away. runs through the crowd and just out into the parking lot. Morrison follows him, and they just disappear. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So, hold on. It gets better. So the match just continues with no explanation. Like they're just like, all right, well, they're gone. So everybody's wrestling around and finding. Well, it gets to the double down. Everybody's down, right? All of a sudden, you hear a screech coming from the entrance, and it's Zach running down the entrance, away from John Morrison. He dives in, shenanigans happen, and all of a sudden, Zach's in a precarious situation. Well, I dive in the ring, turn John Morrison around, like, "Hey, you're not going to blah, 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 blah." Well, I see Dave behind me. Dave has the bag of white powder. I turn John Morrison around. He throws it at John's face. John ducks. White powder hits my face, explodes everywhere. So I am now high as a kite, apparently.
Yes.
I mean, there were no drug tests done, so I can't be proven. Okay? but I am just high as a kite, and I stumble to the middle of the ring, and everybody's quite concerned because I just took a big snoot of white powder. Okay?
Right.
I stumble to the middle of the ring, and all of a sudden, like, I take my jacket off. And all of a sudden, I just rip my shirt open, like just screaming, okay? So Morrison comes over like, "Hey, you need to calm down." Man, I give Morrison a big spine buster, okay? Next, his partner comes over. I give him a spine buster. I spine buster his entire team, okay? Freaking David Starr comes over, and he's like, "Yeah, man," and tries to high-five me. I give David Starr a spine buster, okay?
Oh, no.
And then all of a sudden, Zach and Dave come over to me at the same time, like, "Hey, you need to calm down." Single arm slam both of them at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And I just start, going nuts. Well, I kick off my shoes. I took off my pants. I'm in the ring in just my socks and my underwear. Okay. So I just, for no reason, I just start running the ropes in my underwear. Okay. And
This sounds like the best thing I've ever heard.
Hold on, I'll send you guys the link. Just remind me. I'll send
Oh,
you.
well,
yeah,
we'll
yeah.
post it with the. We'll post a link to this
Yeah.
video in the description. But yeah,
It doesn't have sound, so because of the copyright. But
Even
you'll
better.
get the
Right.
idea.
That's all right.
But here's what happens. I stop in the middle of the ring, all just wide-eyed and everything, and I just scream at the top of my lungs, "Spring break!" and proceed to run toward the ropes. And by the way, there were 2 tables set up outside the ring. I dive over the top rope and throw myself through 2 tables. and
oh wow.
I'm down for just a second. The entire crowd is chanting, "Spring break, spring break, spring break."
oh, you can't see it, but our producer Joe is about to fall out of his chair. He's dying.
I'm down for maybe 5 or 10 seconds. I jump up like nothing happened, start screaming at the top of my lungs in a circle, and then just streak through the crowd and just run into the parking lot.
Oh my gosh.
So a quick follow-up to that is they told me, they said, "I promise you, you'll go out there, you'll be in your underwear. We'll have a door open for you in the back. Just come right in."
Oh no.
There were no doors open.
So you're,
I'm in Orlando. Yeah, I'm just in my socks and my underwear. Okay.
Oh,
so
Jesus.
I'm in this parking lot in Orlando at 3 a.m. No doors are open. So I'm just pounding on the back door of this building, just pounding. And all of a sudden, Big Mike Elgin just comes walking by with his bag. Michael Elgin just looks at me, starts laughing at the top of his lungs, and just goes, "Best rib ever." Gets in his car, drives away.
Oh my gosh.
oh man, that's fantastic. That might be the best story we've had.
That's
on the show
easily,
so
I
far.
think, the best
Yeah,
story
that's
we've
it.
heard.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, Mr. Davidson, we appreciate you coming on. Give you a second here. If you want to plug anything that you got coming up or plug any of your social media, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, big match is coming up this Saturday on the 17th at AAW in Chicago, 115 Bourbon Street. We got Jake Christ in a big fatal 4-way match, the Monster Abyss versus Low Key, and also in the main event, Sami Callihan one-on-one with Mike Elgin, who I'm going to get back for that rib.
Nice.
Yeah, that's funny. That worked out well. But yeah, so that's the next big show coming up. Jake Christ will actually be at PWG on Sunday, so he's out there by himself this time, but really excited to see him back out there. As far as social media, if you want to follow me on Facebook, it's just JT Davidson. I guarantee it's the first one that'll pop up if you search my name. And if you don't know what I look like, I'll probably be the only one holding like big ass title belts, so that'll be me. But as far as Twitter and Instagram, my handle is just JT Davidson OI4K. It's the same on both both platforms. And then also check out our Pro Wrestling Tees store. We're about to add a bunch of new stuff on there. ProWrestlingTees.com/OI4K.
Awesome. You have been to date, I not hyperbole when I say this, you have been the best guest we have had to date.
Very enjoyable, yes.
So,
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
yeah, hopefully we can get you back on sometime in the future. I want to actually hear the follow-up on this, how you're going to get Elgin back for this rib from Orlando, but...
Yeah, man. Well, anytime you guys want me, just hit me up.
Awesome. Thank you. JT, you've been fantastic. Enjoy the rest of your night, and it was great talking to you.
Great talking to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Not hyperbole when we say this. Fantastic guest.
Yeah, no, that story was really good. I really want to see that footage.
That was the right note to end on. That was it right there. So now it's time for us to plug a couple things that we got coming up here. So Sunday, Corey, myself, Josh from our friends over at Erectile Dysfunction, maybe some other people. The pre-show stopper himself, Sean, will be here for our Money in the Bank preview show that goes live at 1:00 on Sunday. So you guys make sure you join us there. And then this next week, we're actually going to be recording 2 episodes on Sunday. We're going to take a retroactive look at Money in the Bank 2010. So that's next week, next Thursday's show. We got a couple other guests coming up here pretty soon. Robert Lopez from Northwest Ohio Wrestling will be joining us here in the studio, I believe. I want to see either the week after next Thursday, or is that 2 weeks?
I think it might be 2 weeks. I can be incorrect, but it's
It's
coming up.
It's coming up. So, and then coming up at the beginning of July, Corey and I, we're going to start hyping this now, are going to be presenting the Audio Suplex Live Thus Far Awards, rewarding the best in WWE
Thus far. Yes.
So you guys can look forward to that. You guys can always check us out at Audio Suplex Live on Twitter, Zanga, MySpace,
Tumblr.
Instagram,
Live
Tumblr,
Journal.
Live Journal, Dead Journal, whatever form of social media you want to follow us on. So make sure you guys give us a follow there. Make sure you guys follow Corey.
Heel_Corey on Twitter.
Yeah,
You can
that's
hit me up.
He doesn't want
I don't
you-
tweet that often unless I'm making fun of Travis.
but when he does, it's gold.
It's always gold.
It's always gold. Matt.
At Matt Bad Friend.
So, and you can follow me at XDrTX. We're going to get out of here, and we will see you guys on Sunday.
Hey guys, we would like to thank the band Wax for our intro and outro music. You can check them out at waxoh.bandcamp.com. You have been listening to the Nerd Complex Podcast Network.
You've been listening to the Nerd Complex Podcast Network.